Please confirm you can hear me, Janet.
I can hear you.
Very well. Let's wait for members to just log in. I've already also communicated with Mr. Lumatete. He should be logging in shortly. Thank you. Good evening, members. Good afternoon. I wish to welcome you to this webinar this afternoon. It comes against a backdrop of very chilling and events that we would not wish to have come about. So to start this webinar, I will ask that Eva Odongo to lead us in the national anthem. Eva, please go ahead.
Mungu nguvu yetu, ilete baraka kwetu, haki iwe ngao na mlinzi, na tukae na udugu, amani na uhuru, raha tupate na ustawi. Amkeni ndugu zetu, tufanye sote bidii, nasi tujitoe kwa nguvu, nchi yetu ya Kenya tunayoipenda, tuwe tayari kuilinda, na tujenge taifa letu. Ndio wajibu wetu, Kenya istahili heshima, tuungane mikono pamoja kazini, kila siku tuwe na shukrani.
Thank you very much for that. My name is Boaz Adala. I am the convener of the CPD and Inns of Court Committee of the Mombasa Law Society. My co-convener is Sharon Shisia. In this session today, my co-host will be Lillian Oluoch, a trustee of the Mombasa Law Society. I wish to welcome all members together with those who are joining. Maybe just to bring you up to speed, is that we found it very necessary to have this webinar session because of the events that are happening in the country currently. We have seen protests which are protected by law, by the Constitution, which have been happening. We have also seen how they have been tackled. This calls for us as lawyers, advocates, and being custodians of the law to be equipped with how we will be able to deal with the issues that we will be emerging. So this webinar is purposely to bring us up to speed with what the law requires of us. Now, before I introduce the speakers of the day, I would just perhaps ask that we have a moment of silence in remembrance of those who have lost their lives during these protests, which happened yesterday. Others have also lost their lives today. So I will ask that we have a moment of silence wherever you are. Thank you so much. Thank you for observing that moment of silence. Now, on to the subject of the day. You've noticed that this event will be running today and tomorrow. We have speakers who will be delivering their speeches tomorrow. And today we have two speakers. And the first speaker will be revisiting the past, because history repeats itself. And what is happening today has happened before. So we have a speaker who will be telling us what is history like, what has happened before, how was it dealt with, and moving forward, what are the lessons that we should learn from the past, so that even as this is happening, we know how to treat. So without further ado, allow me to welcome Senior Advocate Mr. Lumatete Muchai, who will be taking us through this process of history and revisiting the past as regards the events that are currently happening. He will tell us which events are those that are replicating itself. So, Mr. Lumatete Muchai, karibu, welcome.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Lumatete Muchai, or Chai Lumatete, depending on how you want to call me. Some of my colleagues call me Walubengo, others call me Walubengo, depending on where they come from in this part of the world. Now, may I start by saying that there is no nation in the world that grows without going through upheavals. And every generation encounters its own unique problems. But as the convener, Mr. Dala, has pointed out, history repeats itself. And as they say, there is really nothing new under the sun. Now, in our time, or during my time, the first time I encountered the wrath of the state was in 1981, when we were at the University of Nairobi. Now, that's when we had our first student strike. And we were sent home during that time. And the main reason is that Moi, having come to power in 1978, after the death of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta on August 22nd of 1978. And of course, he assumed authority of leadership. There were mock elections that year. And you may also remember that Jomo Kenyatta, before him, never took part in any election. There were no elections other than the 1963 general election. The elections that were held in 1969, 1974, the president was elected by acclamation. And we had in power KANU. Kenya was a multi-party state in name only, but KANU was a party in power. So in 1981, lecturers at the University of Nairobi, can you hear me? Lecturers at the University. Pardon? Yeah,
We can hear
lecturers,
We can hear
lecturers at the University of Nairobi were agitating against the repressive regime. Moi was becoming repressive at the time. And students, they were special branch, we call them special branch at that time, they would be dispatched to the common room at the University of Nairobi. And
Senior, we have lost you. Members, can you hear Mr. Lumatete, or is there a problem on our end?
I think there's a problem on his end because he's not on the platform.
Okay. So I add that to just be patient. I'm sure Mr. Lumatete will join in shortly. I see members are still joining. We are at 51 on the Zoom. Others are also following through YouTube. Mr. Lumatete, once you're ready, you can just go ahead. Let me just call him and find out. Please just hold on there, members.
I think he's back. I've added him.
sorry, there was some interference, my apologies. The point I'm trying to make, to cut a long story short, is that every regime requires checks and balances. And people in power don't like checks and balances. Now, as an advocate, that is the time we encountered that. Then we had the 1982 attempted coup, which was crushed. And as students at the University of Nairobi, we stayed home for a period of 14 months until we went back to university to complete our studies after a period of 14 months. Now, after we left the University of Nairobi and joined the Kenya School of Law and qualified as lawyers, and we came out here to practice, we had encountered what an oppressive regime is like. From our late teens through university up to our early 20s, the mid 20s, when we qualified and were admitted to the bar. Now, after being admitted to the bar, must first encounter with the issues of human rights and police abuse of power, abuse of power by the police, and the abuse of human rights. I encountered it in the year 1987. Now, in 1987, at that time, the police were a law unto themselves. There was a special squad which was killing, handing down and killing robbers, and invariably they would not take them to court. So that was my first encounter in what came to be known as the Barasa inquest case. At that time, generally, the country was being run like a semi-police state, whereby every time you were in public, if you were saying something, you had to look over your shoulder and find out who is around you. And a report would be made to the special branch. You would be summoned to Uhuru Nakazi to report there and say what it is that you are discussing. Now, as an advocate, from 1988, when Kenneth Matiba started and Charles Rubia, Jaramogi, King Odinga, and others, Anyona, of course, you can remember the Mtugi case, which we have discussed on this platform some time back, in which our brother Buti was involved, and others, the so-called Dakorete Mtugi Bar, Dakorete Corner. You are very familiar with those cases. Now, towards the multi-party period, the start of multipartyism, Moi would not hear anything of it. And you will recall that a bill was presented to Parliament. And many of you are wondering today how it is that the bill that was presented by the leader of majority, Kimani Ichung'wah, took only 30 minutes to be passed. That had happened before. When Kenya became a one-party state, it took one afternoon for Kenya for a bill to be passed, presented by Njonjo, who was the Attorney General at that time. That is when Kibaki said, uttered his famous words of, you cannot cut a mgumo tree using a razor blade. So Kenyans started agitating for multipartyism through the 80s up to the 90s until 1991 when multipartyism came into place. Now, the thing that I would want to tell you is what are the credentials that of a lawyer when you are confronted with issues of human rights abuses by the state? What can you do? What role can you play as a lawyer? Not every lawyer, every advocate is a human rights advocate. You have to have the heart. You have to be willing to spend long nights. You have to be willing to spend long days at the police stations. You have to be prepared to spend your time and money to run after the police, to search every police station. You have to be armed or have the knowledge of your constitution. You have to have the knowledge of your Evidence Act. You need to have knowledge of your Criminal Procedure Act. You need to know the law on criminal practice and constitutionalism. That is what you need to be armed with. You need to be calm. You need to have calm your nerves. The police who deal in those matters are unto themselves. They are abusive. They are rude. They can kill. They can threaten. The way they abduct the victims, human rights advocates, the way they abduct them is the same way they can abduct you as an advocate or threaten you as an advocate, scare you so that you do not represent your client. So you have to be prepared. You need to have your nerves. You need to know your law. You need to be calm. Don't be abusive. Don't be rude to them. Don't threaten them, but be firm. Your client may be there when they're telling you he's not here. So one other thing that you need to do is to have friendships with persons, police officers. You may get information from some police officers. There are good police officers who may give you information. There may be workers in police stations whom you know, the civilian staff, they may give you information. You need to know them. You need to make friends amongst them. When you get there, talk to them. There are junior police officers who may give you information. Don't be rude to them. Because what normally happens is once these police officers arrest the suspects, they will normally hold them at police stations. In Mombasa, they like holding them at Port police station. That's normally the place where they like holding them. So you need to know whom to talk to so that you gather information. Because you'll go there, they'll tell you there's nobody here. Your client is not here. When in actual fact, he's there. So be prepared to find ways and means of gathering information about your client. So what is happening now is nothing new. Governments act in the same way. But what is the role of an advocate? The role of an advocate is to make sure that you are prepared, if when necessary, to be prepared to file habeas corpus. And if you find that they are taking round and round, have your habeas corpus application ready all the time. We didn't have laptops those days. In your laptop, have that ready anytime so that you can file your application for habeas corpus to have your client either released or brought before the court, the subject brought before the court. So have your habeas corpus application ready all the time. Have a draft affidavit ready for swearing by a relative of the victim, whether it's a wife, a son, a brother, a sister. So have those applications ready. If you find that the police are taking you round and round, and the time allocated, the time allowed by the Constitution for somebody to be taken to court has passed or is about to pass, bang in that application for habeas corpus as soon as possible. And once they find that you have filed your application for habeas corpus, invariably they will either produce your client in court, release him, or charge him. So habeas corpus application is a must. You must have it all the time, anytime. You must have it with you wherever you go, and understand the law, have the authorities on habeas corpus all the time. During our time, Article 84 was said to be redundant. It was said to be dead. In fact, there was a Justice Dugdale who said that he made a decision and said that it was dead because the Chief Justice at that time had not made rules on how to approach court when you are making a constitutional application under Article 84. So it was said to be dead, and they used that as an excuse so that whenever you filed an application, that application would be dismissed without wasting any time. So these things have been there. Repression has been there. It will continue. It's not about to end, but it is our business to ensure that we stop it in its tracks. So colleagues, be ready at any given time to take up this matter, anytime, all the time. If there are any questions, you can ask so that I can answer specific questions. Just a brief.
Senior Lumatete, thank you for that. We had reserved that perhaps we'll have questions after the second speaker has finalized his bit. Is it possible that we go that way so that we have the next speaker, then we'll have the questions at the tail end?
Thank you.
Very well. Thank you very much for that history. I believe there are many questions that people will ask, but we'll wait at the tail end of this session. So the next speaker is known at the coast as the representative of terror suspects. Today, we will want him to tell us the nitty-gritties, how to go about representing those who would be called the wretched of the earth. During this period, you find that there are those who are abducted, those who the police will not even dare let you know where they are. The other time we were told that persons were abducted in the wee hours and they could not be found anywhere in Nairobi. Others were being reported to be in Kajiado. When one is abducted, how do you go about it? How do you involve the police? How do you get to know where he is? And how do you go about defending their rights from where they are and even up to the court? Our next speaker is Senior Mr. Chacha Mwita, who will be taking us through this second session. Senior, karibu sana, Mr. Chacha Mwita. This is your time. Senior Chacha, let me just try to reach him. Yeah. Janet, kindly unmute Senior Chacha Mwita. He's already in the platform. Sharon Shisia.
Yes, I've sent a request to have him unmute. Let's see if he's going to unmute.
Senior, a request has been sent to you. You should be able to see a pop-up so that you can unmute.
Unmute, yeah.
Yes, very well. Karibu.
Yeah, good afternoon, colleagues.
Good afternoon, Senior. Karibu.
Asante sana. I appreciate this opportunity and privilege, and I also appreciate the title that I'm also being referred to as an advocate who follow up issues of suspected terrorists with a passion. Basically, this is with a view of making sure that we are all subjected to the constitution that we pride in. In fact, it is voted as one of the most progressive constitutions in the Republic. which has a whole chapter on basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. It is our duty as legal practitioners to make sure that those provisions do not only remain on paper, but they are actualized and they become a reality of our daily engagements. Having said that, I also appreciate the presence of Senior Counsel Lumatete and the brief background that he has given us so that we could put this particular discussion in context. And I do wish to register my appreciations to senior and the other senior counsels who've been always been on the front line, making sure that the security agencies and organs are held accountable to their action. And also maybe just to bring it to speed, there is a case which was filed recently, and I believe Senior Lumatete must have been involved in it, which is also involved Muhuri, where a suspected terrorist was killed, and investigators did concede that it was by mistaken identity, and a ruling was delivered the other day by the Constitutional Court, and the family were granted damages. I believe this is the route to go, and currently what Senior and Muhuri are trying is now, after damages have been granted, is to identify the specific officers who were involved in that incident so that they can be held liable. With this type of litigations, we'll be able to minimize, because it will always echo at the back of these officers that there is a high possibility that they can be held responsible. We also have a very perfect recent example in regard to the President of the Republic of Kenya, who has made several announcements that issues of extrajudicial disappearances and killings is a thing of the past, but unfortunately, we can see the same is still happening under his watch. So we know Uhuru did tell us that maneno tamtam. So I think by now we are used to those maneno tamtam. So to turn the law into reality, then I believe the dog stops with us as legal practitioners. On this particular topic, and the good thing is that we've gone through a live experience whereby this particular subject has become very, very, very relevant. And the twist of it, which is scary, is that as legal practitioners, we are not spared from these abductions and extrajudicial measures by security agencies. Because at some point, we are mistaken to be harboring maybe similar thoughts or agendas with our clients, while in reality, everybody has a right to benefit from the provisions of the law, and that is to be presumed innocent until the contrary is proven. And if anybody has a claim against you, then you need to be presented before a court of law within 24 hours. That is a very clear provision under Article 49 of the Constitution. So I think we've been talking about law reforms for quite some time. That is basically police reforms. That's what I meant, police reforms. But it appears it's like we are simply just going round circles. Because when this particular team, I think there were some people had come from Asia who were supposed to back up the campaign strategy for Kenya Kwanza and the DCI. There's a specific unit that abducted these particular people, and I think that's what angered the current president, and immediately he took the oath of office. He disbanded this particular unit of the DCI, and those particular officers, they are currently facing trial for the abduction and the eventual killing of those particular agents for the Kenya Kwanza administration. So we only wish that the president was applying this particular measure evenly, not for only his selfish interests, but for the boda, for the interest of the boda and the mama mboga, as the famous saying goes. Because if they were able, the DCI was able to identify this specific unit, then it means that every incident of extrajudicial disappearance or killing, the DCI is in a position to identify the specific culprits. But to date, it has become a tall order, and we've witnessed it has become a reality. Even those who are lucky to have these incidents captured on CCTV, they should always be very grateful to the Almighty that at least there was a third eye to capture these particular incidents. But if you look at the modus operandi, these are specialized units. These are people who don't, it's not a trial and error exercise. These are people who've been trained highly to be able to execute these abductions and to successfully hold you incommunicado. So it's an intricate web. And as we look forward as legal practitioners, we also need to keep this discussion going to look for avenues and means on how to counter this particular menace. And we should also appreciate that we are in the era of technology. I think that is where we also need to take advantage that we now have smartphones. Not everybody has the privilege of mounting CCTV cameras wherever they're operating from. But we should not use smartphones just for entertainment, but to counter these excesses by security agents. So if somebody just observes something that is out of the ordinary, it's captured, it's recorded, and it's shared. That way, you are able to save a life. If that one is done, then whoever is behind it will know that now the cat has been let out, and all the suspicions are all directed towards the agents of state. As stated by senior counsel, I think with this particular field, it also calls for a passion. Because as described by senior counsel, long waits in police stations, cat and mouse chase, you run to this police station, you're told they've moved to a different police station. And you really wonder, as in we have the National Police Service Act, which provides on how a suspect should be arrested, and the demand that there should be booking accountability of these particular suspects. So if there's police stations that allow some of these units to keep suspects without entering any OB, then I think these particular stations or stations needs to be called out, identified, and shamed. And if need be, also hold them accountable by filing applications in court, so that when this is intensified, then I have a feeling that this particular misbehavior will be minimized to a certain extent. So with the current abductions, the other issue about these abductions is in the year 2014, there was a Security Law Amendment Act. If you can recall, at that time we had CODE, and CODE together with the Human Rights Institution did go to court and challenge that law, Security Law Amendment Act of number 19 of 2024. There are some suggestions of amendments that were found to be unconstitutional, and one of them will be a suspected terrorist. Currently, the Prevention of Terrorism Act at Section 33 provides for a suspect to be held for a maximum of 90 days to facilitate investigations. But in the amendments, they had suggested 364 days, meaning that you could stay in police custody for a whole year while investigations are being conducted. But the same was found to be unconstitutional, amongst other suggestions on amendments. So I think what is critical and what passed through, because we are all eager to equip our officers to be able to effectively counter terrorism, not knowing that in future, in the year 2024, that those tactics were going to be employed against unarmed demonstrators. So with that amendment law, it allowed the NSIS. Initially, they never used to be armed, and they didn't have the powers to arrest. Theirs was just to gather intelligence and share the same with the police for the police to come into action. But owing to the challenges and sensitivities surrounding terrorism, at times it might, by the time you're informing the police, maybe some innocent people will have been hurt. That's why the law was amended to allow for the NSIS to bear arms and to have the powers to arrest. And then after arrest, they will always immediately hand you over to the police. But from the recent arrests, there's been a lot of claims that it is the NSIS that is responsible for those arrests, meaning that we should be contemplating filing a petition against the management, the managers of the NSIS, together with the IG, for them to be answerable, because they are the eyes of, they're the ones who are supposed to make sure. They should be having an explanation. It doesn't make sense when you make follow-ups and then the police tell you that they don't know. So who is supposed to know in as far as the Constitution is concerned? That is the responsibility of the NSIS and the police. So these issues of somebody being kept incommunicado for more than 24 hours, okay, I believe we all abhor acts of terrorism, but we should always put it in mind that injustice to anybody is injustice to the whole world. So we should make sure that even the bad guys should always be subjected to due process, so that for the claimant to come to court and claim and prove their claims. But here we are. Now we've been caught up, and the tactics that are supposed to be employed against the bad people, the bad guys, the terrorists, they are now being employed against unarmed civilians. So as senior counsel has put it, for those who have a passion and interest on matters human rights, first and foremost, before I go even to the legal requirements and drills, I think there is a need to network with the relevant institutions and organizations that deal with human rights. To start with is the national body, the Kenya National Human Rights Commission. You must have some level of networking, because for them, and as provided for the law, they can be allowed access to certain institutions that you as an advocate might have a lot of challenges to gain access. And in fact, they might take you around corners when you visit this police station, but the moment you have an officer from the National Commission of Human Rights, they have they have the lockers to even demand that the cells be open so that they confirm who are the people being held in that particular institution. Besides the national body, you also need to network with these other human rights institutions. Like in Mombasa, we have Muhuri, we have Haki Africa, and in Nairobi, we have the Human Rights Defenders Coalition and ABCD. Because even these other human rights organizations that are not recognized by the law, they come in handy for purposes of publicity. Because immediately an abduction happens, the sooner the same is publicized, the sooner you'll be able to arrest the abductors on their tracks. But if the more you remain silent, the more it becomes infinite to be able to trace whoever has been abducted. And at times, I think if you sense that you're about to be abducted, then it's very necessary to create some commotion so that you can create attention for people to come and witness, even if they will not be able to stop the said abduction, but there'll be somebody to witness. Because those abductions that have taken place quietly and silently, even if you go to court for habeas corpus, you have no basis to start from. But if you can prove that there is a motor vehicle, like this time around, I was so impressed with how the Gen Zs were following up on these incidents. Immediately an abduction happens. Luckily, some of these Gen Zs, they were aware of this particular unfortunate incident happening upon them. So some of them were able to install CCTV cameras. But in most cases, we were able to get the registration numbers of the vehicles involved. Although being somebody who has been in the field for a while, and also Senior Lumatete, you realize at times you even search with the NTSA. You realize that this particular registration was registered to a pharmaceutical company. The moment you even see such, just conclude that that is intelligence, or that is the DCI that are behind this. You'll hardly find the registrations in the name of an individual. It will be in the names of an institution. And then some searches, you'll get a message from NTSA that you need to go to NTSA physically to be able to conduct that search. That's also another indicator that you are dealing with the intelligence, or you're dealing with the DCI. So with the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, we've appreciated the assistance that they can offer, and this other human rights organization also, in purposes of publication, publicizing this incident. It's very, very, very crucial. And as seniors indicated, also courtesy. There is, especially with these units, they always have this negative impression on counsels or advocates. So whenever you visit a police station, I think those niceties of greeting, mumeshindaje, and all that, and then you being a lawyer then comes second, and then you might be able to get assistance. And at times there's some with this good relationship, there'll be a cop who will just give you a hint, because some of these officers, they're also not in support of these extrajudicial measures that are being done by their colleagues. And at times you'll get a hint on what you need to do. But after 24 hours have lapsed, a family member, or if it's an advocate, any one of us must report the said disappearance. Make sure that you secure an OB. And as seniors indicated, on your laptop or on your desktop, there should be an application, a complete application for habeas corpus on standby. Because the sooner you file the application, and the sooner the instructed players are summoned to court and they are given days to respond, the sooner you'll be able to curtail that disappearance. And despite having witnessed what happened recently, we as a profession we've also fallen victim. And I believe for this Purple Ribbon Week, as we commemorate Wakina Willie and others who've fallen while on the line of duty, it's a constant reminder that the players keep on changing, but the habits are still the same. Because while we were young and raising up during Moi era, we used to hear about these disappearances. Then Kibaki came in, still we could hear about the disappearances. Uhuru came in, and during Uhuru time, I hear that they were given a blank check, and that's why we had Rivayala and so many other places where we used to get bodies recovered. And currently, despite the undertaking that extrajudicial abduction is an issue of the past, but we've woken up to the reality that that is indeed not the case. So the question is, what remains consistent all through these different periods of the Kenyan history? What remains consistent is the use or the misuse of the DCI. So I think we need to have a discussion around this particular subject, as in the DCI has been reduced to a militia. So whoever is in power can use them as he wishes. They will give different names. We've always had a Kwekwe, Sungu Sungu, blah, 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 blah. They'll keep on changing these names, but the behavior, the character remains the same. And the reason as to why the character remains the same, when you look at the Public Order Act, this is, in most cases, this is what the security agencies will use in trying to declare a gathering or a procession to be illegal. And you realize that this is a law that was commenced on the 13th of June, 1950, and assented on the 13th of June, 1950. At some point when I was looking at this, I even asked a counsel to remind me, when did we become independent and when did we become a republic? And why do we have such laws that were passed in the 50s at the moment of the emergencies, when the older generation of the Mau Mau, not the current generation of the Gen Z's Mau Mau, the initial one, it coincides with the time of the emergency. And these are some of the laws that are colonial, that I think there is need to decolonize the operations of the police. And it's also a reality, we should not run away from it, that the police formation is a brainchild of the colonialists. And by that time, they had their own objectives to meet. So the problem is those colonial objectives, it appears it's like they've not been redeemed or amended. So, and that's why we find some of these police units, they won't hesitate to violate the constitution because they believe they get orders from above and they remain untouchable. And I'm also impressed. There is an announcement or declaration that was made by the Chief Justice. That and also I think that announcement also I think that did down real well on the security agencies when the Chief Justice indicated that the courts are on standby and ready to receive any applications for habeas corpus. So in a way, the judiciary did communicate that they've observed that there is something that is not being done right. And I think that statement by itself, I believe it had a lot of impact on the executive, to the effect that the judiciary is looking forward to these applications, and indirectly it read that all the orders sought will be granted. So it's for us not to shy. And I believe as some of us take these matters, and I also really, really appreciate the backing and the insulation by the Law Society, whether it's the Mombasa branch, the Nairobi branch, or the upcountry, the togetherness is very critical in a way. It also gives some security or offers some security to some of our colleagues who are embroiled in some of these rigorous engagements, and at the same time extremely dangerous. As earlier indicated, that these investigators at times mistake you to think that you also associate with what your clients are doing. And this is very clear. International instruments and even the local jurisdiction has indicated that cannot be misinterpreted in regard to the legal profession. There are some other things that Kenya needs to be pushed. Kenya is supposed to ratify. There is an international instrument against extrajudicial abductions and killings. It's supposed to be domesticated and made a criminal offense, and Kenya is yet to do that. So we need to lobby to make sure that Kenya becomes part of one of the subscribers, so that it also discourages these extrajudicial means by, say, security agencies. So, as I believe we should also make further endeavors, and also having hotline numbers known to the public and also to the councils. And the councils also need to communicate this to their families, so that in the event anything happens, and then there can be communication. Besides Willie Kimani, I'm aware. I believe most of us are aware that there is an advocate in Nairobi by the name of Professor Nandwa. He was representing a terrorist suspect by the name of Elgiva Bwire. So the time Elgiva Bwire was released from custody, and Professor Nandwa was following up on his release, and at some point they could not trace where this particular released convict was, it led to the abduction of Professor Nandwa, and that was he was abducted from Jamia Mosque in Nairobi, only to be discarded after, I believe, a week after the Law Society of Kenya has mounted demonstrations demanding for his return, and eventually was dropped at Mwingi, where he got some good Samaritans who facilitated his travel back to Nairobi. And also there is need for psychosocial support, because most of these people who are abducted and later on released, I think their character changes completely, and they'll never divulge to you what is it that they went through. And I believe the National Human Rights Commission, Wakina Muhuri and the others, they've been having this dilemma. They really want to go to court. They really want to instruct lawyers to go to court and sue the people who are responsible. But the victims, they will tell you clearly that we are not interested, as in what I went through, and nobody could stop them from doing what they did to me. So if I was to go out there and start talking, then something very nasty might happen. So I believe we just need to maintain our togetherness and to make sure we make this communication very clear to the parties involved, that any council who is touched, then they've touched every other council, and they're going to get a reaction. So as earlier communicated by Senior, whoever has an interest in this particular arena, and then the beauty about this arena is you end up developing jurisprudence. Even long after you are done with practice, whoever will be submitting in court, they'll end up making references to case laws that you participated in and decisions were made. So that is the essence of being in this profession, whereby we put our best foot ahead to make sure that we develop jurisprudence so that it is in tandem with the provisions of our constitution. Otherwise, dealing with these security agencies, at some point it gets really scared, because at times you'll get communications that you should go slow, or you'll get proxies to advise you and remind you about Willie Kimani and what happened to him. And they leave you to make a choice on whether you want to continue walking towards that path, or you want to come back and just limit yourself possibly to civil practice. So I think it's a discussion that needs to continue. And at some point, I think the judiciary and ourselves need also to have some meeting of minds in as far as these issues is concerned. And the other institution that also needs to be brought on board seriously is the Attorney General's Office and the ODPP, because these are our colleagues. And I think we should all be faithful to the Constitution. If a wrong has been done, it remains a wrong. And although by the end of the day it pays for our bread and butter, but at the same time, I think our fidelity to the law should always reign supreme, whereby the ODPP is required to be an independent institution, and they should be able to demonstrate that indeed they are independent, whereby they should just, if they see anything wrong that was done by the security agencies, they should bring it out. In fact, it is also for their own safety. And if it's true that the son of the Attorney General, the current Attorney General, was also abducted, then it means none of us is safe. So we should just make sure that everybody plays as per the rules. I think I'll just pin it off at that point, and maybe leave it to the panel now to open it up for further discussion. Thank you for the indulgence.
Thank you very much, Senior, for that very illuminating presentation. Members, I now open the floor for those who have questions. You are free to request to be unmuted, or you can also post the same through the chat section. We welcome members. This session, I would like it to be addressed by Sharon and Eva. Sharon and Eva, you can take the questions that members have, whether posted or anyone who has requested to be unmuted so that they can ask their questions. Meanwhile, while at that, please allow me to ask the following questions. And the first one would go to my senior, Mr. Chacha. You've indicated that very well that there are scenarios whereby you go to a police station and you're told that particular client is not there, when you are convinced that the client is there. This is a live matter, because during yesterday's protest, we had such kind of a scenario whereby we are called that, look, I am being held at this particular police station. But then when you send advocates there, you are told, no, there is no such person here. And of course, you cannot insist. How do you handle that? Would you first go to court to give you right of access so that you confirm that your client is there or not? Or how do you go about it? Please, I would request that you help us navigate around that, even as we go through the other questions. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very interesting scenario, and at the same time extremely challenging. But the lucky bit of it is that this particular client or victim is in possession of his communication gadget. That particular client is extremely lucky, because in most of these abductions, the first items to be confiscated will be the mobile phone. And the reason as to why they confiscate the mobile phone is to possibly make it impossible to track your location. That's why I've insisted on these issues of networking, because there are some human rights defenders institutions that you can simply just provide them with a number and they'll be able to confirm the location. So if you've confirmed that that is the location, then I think that singular lawyer only needs to call for backup. So that, and this is where these human rights organizations come in handy. When you call in for backup, then it becomes impossible for them to sneak out that particular suspect. And you have people holding vigil. Eventually, they're going to give up, or they're going to give in. But in the event whereby this particular client doesn't have this communication gadget, then the situation becomes tricky, extremely tricky. And you'll just have to live by whatever these police officers are telling you, with the remedy of only going to court and blindly making this application for habeas corpus, because you can't ascertain for sure that this particular client is at a specific police station. And the other approaches also, as earlier suggested, that building bridges, as practitioners, we always frequent these police stations for other matters. So if you've been able to create networks, at times you just quietly and remotely make these inquiries, and you'll be able to get information that huyo mtu ako hapo na the people who are with him ni watu fulani. And of course, this will be an anonymous information being communicated to you, but because nobody will want to be known to be the person who leaked out that information because of the dire consequences that might follow, depending also with the gravity of the case, especially if it's to do with maybe terrorism. And now that these demonstrations have been ongoing, and the machinery, it's like they've been outbeaten. They don't know how the SEM has been organized, how the SEM is running. So I think it's a catch-22. I think networking is very critical when it comes to identifying the location of victims. That is all.
Thank you. Sharon, I see there are questions posted. Please go ahead. Okay.
I don't know if it's a question, but I can say it's like a comment that is from Senior A.O. Aminga, who actually says, kudos to my classmate Chacha. And okay, yeah, there is a question actually. Please shed light on how one can build bridges without compromising the integrity. That is the question by A.O. Aminga.
Thank you.
So maybe Senior Lumatete will take it up, or it's me to proceed with it.
Did you get the question?
Maybe if you could repeat the same.
The same question.
Yeah.
It please shed light on how one can build bridges without compromising integrity.
Yeah, I hope I've understood it and the intent of it, the spirit of the question, without compromising integrity. I think when it comes to integrity, if I've got the question right, is where you are forced to buy information. I don't know if that will be unprofessional, because at times you have no other ways, and to save a life, you only need to maybe motivate somebody. You buy that information, because by the end of the day, what you are trying to do is to save a life against excessive extrajudicial means. So I think on not compromising integrity, I think basically that's what it will imply. And in most cases, if you can do it through developing goodwill, at times it pays. At times it pays. This frequent visit in certain police stations, you advise the officers, you advise the people who've been arrested and all that. So they appreciate your value. And in return, some point in time, they might also give you some very valuable. It's a thin line. It's a thin line. But if truth is to be told, at times you just have to buy this information. I stand to be corrected.
Thank you, Senior. I get it that sometimes we have to go overboard to save a life. Thank you for that. I don't know whether Senior Lumatete is still in the platform. It seems he has left.
I had another question which has been posted. Perhaps if I can, it is the same is directed to Senior Chacha. Perhaps if I
Go ahead.
could just read it. That is from Gishore Gitao, who's watching on YouTube. And his question is that we have a constitution that provides for habeas corpus and the penal code as well. And which court is best to approach with the application of habeas corpus?
Okay. The best court to approach for the purpose of habeas corpus will be the Constitutional Court. That is the best court place to interpret and to effect, to bring into life the provisions of the Constitution, the High Court.
Thank you very much for that brief and concise response. I don't know, Sharon, are there still any other questions?
I can't see any other question.
Yes.
I can't see any other question. Perhaps if I could just make a comment on Senior's presentation.
Yes, yes.
On the issues, I believe he's actually given us some light, or rather, he's shown us some light on some things that we really need to work on to make, should I say, the practice of these matters, such kind of matters, like easier or be able to maneuver easily. One was the international instrument that is yet to be domesticated here in Kenya in respect to extrajudicial means. I believe we need to really look into it and just familiarize ourselves with it and see on how we can just push for it. I believe there is a way we can just have a hand on how to make it easier for us to practice the same, or easier for us to just even assist on our way forward. And also the issue that he raised on the psychosocial support of the abductees. It is quite saddening how these persons, when they come out, or rather when they are released, they're in a state where they look like they can't really say much, and it's so sad that you cannot cry more than the bereaved. However, you feel the concern and you wish that you could actually just step in, and we are hoping that in the near future we'll be able to just have that one person who is going to actually just come out and say that let's proceed with filing something and just see, or rather deal with how these people uh, go against the human rights to get these persons into that state where they are even unable to share what really happened. Perhaps that will be just my comment on what Senior has actually shared with us. And meanwhile, I can see some questions which have popped in, and this is directed to both speakers. One is how can you use media effectively to achieve justice for your client, and if there is any experience on this?
I think it was an oversight that wasn't specific in stating that media is also a very important partner when it comes to this particular evil of abductions. Like we've also experienced with the demonstrations and the abductions that were taking place. If it was not for the media and mounting pressure on the authorities, some of these people had been abducted. Maybe they could have even stayed longer. But the media is very, very, very instrumental when it comes to heaping pressure on the concerned parties. So the more an issue is highlighted, the more it's likely to be resolved the earliest. The less it is highlighted, the possibility of it will never get resolved. So media is very critical, but at the same time, also I think We just need to build a partnership between the LSK and these media houses. But for some, they'll shy away from highlighting some of these issues because they have advertisements that they get from the government. There are some media houses that are selective when it comes to publication of certain incidents. But fortunately, we have social media that I believe has a major impact than the traditional media houses. In fact, the other day I saw, this is just by the way, that Nation newspaper understand that they had indicated that they are going to declare some of their employees to be redundant. And that is because of the role that social media has taken. So when we say media, let's not limit ourselves to the traditional media that we are used to. Currently, we are so lucky for purposes of publicity, and it's quite strategic. It comes in handy.
Maybe what I can add here, there was the issue of networking. Networking is a very, very interesting aspect of criminal practice. You can get information from very unlikely sources. And some of the people, for those of you who are in the world of criminal practice, and if you want to practice in this area, these persons were not there previously, but they are there, and they are very, very, very influential and effective in communicating information. The bodabodas, the mamambogas, the people who might be selling mahamri outside a police station or selling in the police canteen. When you go to those places, make a point of going to the canteen or to the shop there, or talking to those bodabodas or the tuk-tuk fellows who operate from around the police stations. You may get information from those people, either directly, but most likely indirectly, because events that happen around that police station, they will normally know. And nowadays, they may have reports that have appeared in the social media, and they will have that information, and you'll be able to get that information from them. So networking is everything. So don't ignore those tuk-tuk fellows. Don't ignore the bodabodas. Don't ignore those ladies who may be selling njugu outside the police station. You will get information from there. And as for the media, for a practitioner, when you are in that area of practice, you must also be on social media. You must be on Twitter. You have to be on Facebook. You have to be on Instagram. And it may help if you are in contact with some of those very influential fellows, or you may have your friends on Facebook, those influencers, or they are your friends on Twitter or Instagram. When you make a post, they will immediately magnify it, and the information will reach far and wide. So social media is quite influential now, and you cannot ignore it. The many persons who read it, the many persons who will repost your post, it will come in quite handy.
Thank you, Senior Lumatete. At this point, we wish to open up the floor to any other person, participant who would like to make a comment. I understand we have various LSK branches, Nairobi. Yes, please.
Perhaps just before we go to the other people, or if I could just wind up with the comments on that have been posted for those who are watching on YouTube.
Yes, please go ahead.
There is one comment by Gishore Gitau, who wants to add to what Senior Chacha's sentiments. But IPOA has access to the NPS and will go a long way in providing valuable information and access to clients held in police custody. This is just to continue with the conversation about working together with other people so that we can be able to just get to have a well-defined way of dealing with this issue. Yeah, that was the only comment that was left. We can proceed.
I do concur. I think it was an oversight. IPOA is also a very strategic partner, especially for them. You see, they have a mandate to follow up on any complaints against the police. So they are very instrumental. I think it was just an oversight. But the dilemma that they always face is these victims not wanting to open up. I've referred several matters to IPOA, but they've been forced by circumstances to close the investigations.
But I think on this issue of victims not opening up, I think maybe this is an area in this practice, in practice, this area that we may have to develop to engage doctors in this area, maybe psychologists, psychiatrists. I think I don't know if IMLU has that line. I think it may be necessary for us to involve doctors who are specialized in these areas to assist in trying to debrief these persons who have gone through these harrowing experiences under these terrible units that the government uses to clamp down on people's rights. So I think time has come when we should go beyond, just looking at matters as lawyers. I think we now need to involve experts in this area who are trained, who are doctors in these particular areas, to be able to debrief these fellow persons and get information that we require, maybe for them to take up the matters and sue the state, because that's the only way we can maybe try and limit the excesses that are meted by the state.
Thank you so much, Senior, for the insights. Thank you also, Senior Chacha. Perhaps we'll just invite those members who are present in the platform, and they would want to ask any question in respect to the topic at hand. The floor is open. We can take questions from those ones in the platform. Perhaps anyone with a question or a comment?
Maybe to just add on what seniors just said, there is this other aspect of witness protection. I think it needs to be scrutinized because there are some sensitive questions, incidents whereby I think officials within the said agency have revealed the identity of certain potential witnesses, and they've ended up being eliminated. So it's an issue to be looked into, because some of these people who can't speak out, if some of them can be placed under witness protection by reliable institutions, they'll be able to speak out, and with a possible option of being relocated, which is also a very serious life-changing decision for one to make. So there are so many issues for consideration, but witness protection could be one of the aspects that needs to be looked into.
Thank you so much, Senior, for that. Any person with a comment or a question? I can see Senior Aminga, you've unmuted.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I wish to commend the speakers, the two speakers, my senior, Mr. Lumatete, and my classmate and good friend, Mr. Chacha. for the illuminating talk we have heard from them. Mine at this point is more of a comment. I had actually posted it, but because maybe some of us may have not seen it, I want to reiterate what I had posted. I personally don't practice much in this field, but I do criminal law. So I am alive to certain realities in this field, which I just wanted to share. And what I'm saying is that this is a field, this particular field, where you have to interact so much with the investigative arms, and these investigative arms of the government are rather, in most cases, they are, what I could say is the nature of work is not open for all of us to understand. It is quite intimidating, as my colleague Mr. Chacha pointed out, and I think Senior Lumatete has also pointed that out. It is an area which is shrouded in, let me not call it mystery, but it is deliberate or deliberate. What can I say? It's a field that is it's governed by what a normal practitioner may not appreciate. And at times it is intimidating. It is coercive in nature. It is not lucrative in most cases, because like now, if I were to offer myself to give services to young people who have been arrested today or yesterday, most of these are from ordinary families who will not be able to pay well. In fact, they may not be able to pay at all. So it is a field, and again now, when we are dealing with the officers trying to get information, although Chacha has been humble enough and magnanimous enough to share tidbits on how to go around getting information, but initially you will find all those manner of challenges and all those manner of intimidations and threats. So what I'm saying is that it is not a field that most of us will find it easy to venture into. But at the end of the day, as a trained lawyer and one who has taken the oath to defend the rights of people, the rights of humanity, without fear or favor, we should be courageous enough to venture into the field, particularly at this moment in history. Field that we need to start count. Thank you very much, and have a pleasant evening. That is all.
Thank you very much for that insight. This is Eva, and I have a question to the whole group that is meeting here today. And my question is that we have seen that we need passion, you need patience, and it needs a certain, you need to be able to provide all the information. I mean, have all the acts and the sections at your fingertips. And we've also heard that it might not be the easiest way of practice or the easiest field of practice. Not that it is putting off for others, but just truth be told, some of us might not have the stomach to do the actual brief. However, we would like to support, and especially now when the country is in the state that it is in, there are those of us who would like to support the initiative of anyone who is providing pro bono services. And is there Are there other roles that are there to be played? Kuna watu ya mkono. Is there another thing that someone can do or assist in? When you're going to get people from the police station, you mentioned you want people to keep vigil. Is it possible that we can organize ourselves so that whenever someone is going, you go with a team of volunteers on shifts to go keep vigil? And what other roles do you think are available for others to support in an initiative where you're defending someone's rights at the police station or in the courts? To both speakers and to everyone who is listening. Thanks.
The more, the merrier. When you show force of presence, the police and their clients who have sent them the state are bound to take notice. So if you are accompanied, there may be the lead lawyer who will do the donkey work, accompanied by colleagues. There's also an opportunity to learn. Like I now don't do many of those, but when I used to do them, I used to be accompanied by younger colleagues. Those days I would do with them. I would ask them to do the drafts. I would show them how to do the drafts. You know, they prepare the habeas application. Maybe when I'm going to court, interview witnesses and do that kind of thing. So there is absolutely nothing wrong in being many, because basically in matters of this nature, there are no fees in the strict sense of the word. There are no fees. You do this, you are simply giving back to society. You are learning, all the learning that you had, you are giving back to society, and protecting our constitutional architecture and ensuring that the state does not trample on the rights of the individual. So you are welcome anytime to accompany, and any of our colleagues who are involved in this, please don't go alone. In fact, when you are many, the risk of the police maybe abducting you as a lawyer or scaring you away diminishes. So I would encourage that our colleagues to be involved, to go in a group, to work together. Some may carry out research, prepare authorities. So if you are going for habeas corpus, the papers are ready, the authorities are ready, filing. You have the application filed online. Then when you appear before the judge, everything is ready. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with working together.
Yeah, in this field, as said by Mr. Aminga while contributing, is that there is something for everyone. So you can't miss out. As in, I think the central point will be coordination. Who is it that will be doing the coordination? Because I was really impressed when LSK issued a prompt whereby you register if you are ready and willing to offer pro bono services. And I'm told quite a number of lawyers did register. And I think it's also an opportunity for those who've not ventured much into criminal practice. This could also offer as an opportunity to have an insight of what it's all about. There is always something for somebody to do. You can never miss something to do, to make sure that we all live by the same threshold, and that is the Constitution.
Thank you so much, Seniors, for those comments and insights. Perhaps if we could just have any other comments or contributions from the members. I believe we even joined with members from LSK, the larger LSK, not only Mombasa alone. Anyone who has a comment, perhaps those who have been on the ground when dealing with these matters, as we know those who volunteered to do pro bono and just their experience on how they they got to deal with these issues firsthand. If anyone has a comment on the same, we will be glad to just listen to you and just get to know and also learn more on how we can be better and do better. Any comments?
Maybe just a suggestion. I think those early days when I was learning the ropes, we used to have institutions like Legal Foundation. This is in Nairobi, where they used to organize free legal aid clinics in prisons. And they will encourage lawyers to pick up matters, and then they will facilitate. Any court appearance, they'll pay you a minimum. At least you go even. I think we need to also look for these strategic partners.
That is
maybe something I just need to mention here. In matters of this nature, time is of the essence. You have to be fast on your feet. Any minute lost goes against the rights of the victim. So time, you must be fast on your feet.
Thank you so much, and we hope that we are really going to just help perhaps these human rights defenders, or rather these institutions that are involved in such kind of matters. If we could just get any person who can partner with us and just to push. And as you said, we're glad that the LSK, the larger LSK, was able to just coordinate themselves and move on trying to get these people out and just to proceed with having their human rights respected or abide with. If I don't want to close the door on anyone, if anyone has a comment, if not, we'll proceed to just appreciate us members for attending today. Anyone before I can close the floor with a comment?
Hey, Sharon.
Yes.
I think my comment from today's meeting would be that we need to stand and be counted. We need to play our part. And that means that when we hear a call from the LSK or the MLS, please answer to the call and show up. Even if you do not think you are going to be able to provide the lead services, we've heard that they always will require some support services. So let's stand and be counted and get involved with your local LSK branch and ensure that you are available when you are needed, when your services are needed. You could be the difference between someone getting justice or not. Thank you to the speakers and to everyone who has come here to listen, and have a blessed evening. Back to you, Sharon.
Thank you so much, Eva. Perhaps just to wind up after the 2 hours of good insights in respect to just how we could just proceed on representing human rights defenders and other circumstances. I would just like to appreciate Senior Limatete for sharing with us the history in respect to the topic at hand. And as you said, there's nothing new under the sun, and just a difference in tactics. I would just add on that. And this will definitely make us appreciate the progress that we've had, and also it's an eye opener on what we are and how we'll be best placed to just have the opportunities that we have at the moment, or rather the state where we are at the moment while carrying out this representation. For Senior Chacha, thank you so much for the elaborate insights on what this field entails and the way around it, the necessary processes and parts, stakeholders, partners that we need to employ while dealing with such cases. So we hope that this conversation will not end now, but it will continue even as we seek to have better legislation backup on this topic and on matters related to these issues. We do appreciate so much for everyone who attended today, and we hope that it has been a good insight. It's been a moment of just learning and getting to be better um, in this field of law. And we hope that you will also join us tomorrow. Tomorrow at the same time, we'll be having another webinar with different speakers on different topics. And we hope that you'll be able to just join us and just get more insights as we continue with this conversation and as we learn from each other. We do appreciate our speakers for today. We know that you just taking that time to just share with us all this information is really appreciated. And thank you for everyone who also joined in. I hope you'll have a take home to take to others. And see you tomorrow at the same time, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. with other speakers. Thank you so much. I believe I can close the meeting at that with the permission of Adala, my host.
Yes, please, co-convener. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Do have a lovely evening. We do appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, leave.